Republican presidential candidate Ben Carson responded to reports of other candidates using deceptive tactics in Monday's Iowa caucuses. Let's take a look.
It was on my bucket list, but I do pay attention, and I listen to the hundreds of thousands of people who sent petitions to my home, said you should do this. You know, I have been very concerned and for a very with our nation and with our government. And why is it that the American people are so restless? Why do they not trust the government? And why have we come to a place where we actually expect that and accept that and say that that's a part of the process? That's why I personally have refused to become a politician. It's why I do not accept money from special interest groups or from billionaires who want to influence the process, and why I never will. I think there are things that are more important than that. And I make no bones about the fact that I am a person of faith. And I believe what it says in Matthew 7:20 in the Sermon on the Mount. By their fruit you will know them. You know people not by what they say, but by what they do and how their lives are led. And I hope that people will judge me by those same standards. Not what I say, but what I do. What has my life been? And I hope you will judge all the other people who are running for this position by the same standards. I think if we do that, we're less likely to make a mistake. And we need to think truly about our children. What kind of image are we setting for them? Are we holding up the highest values and principles that have characterized America in the past? Or are we settling for what we consider to be the best that we can get? We can get complete excellence, and we should settle for nothing less than that. Thank you. Let me open it up for questions.
Dr. Carson, are you calling Ted Cruz a hypocrite?
I didn't say a word about Ted Cruz. What I said is what we need to be able to do is look at a person's life, look at the way a person does things, look at the way a person treats other people, and make a judgment.
But you're obviously talking about the rumors that were out there that some in the Cruz campaign were putting out there on caucus night. So this is the reason why we're here.
Well, it's clear that there were people who tried to take advantage of a situation, who tried to distort information. There's no question about that. Senator Cruz told me that he was not aware of that when I talked to him, and that he did not agree with that kind of thing. And we'll wait and see what he does to demonstrate that.
But you don't believe him if you are here talking about the way people conduct themselves.
Well, he could very well have not known about it, but it's obvious that there were people in his organization not only knew about it, but who carried it out, who executed it. So, you know, we have to look at the obvious things that are going on.
Dr. Carson, do you think it obviously affected the result, your result in Iowa, what you're describing?
I think it did, yes. I was getting a lot of intelligence from a lot of different places saying that I was going to do extraordinarily well. And I do think it affected that. There was one instance where my wife went to a caucus, and my representative had already spoken, but the Cruz representative had spoken and told people that I was in fact not going to be continuing. And the people wanted to actually hear from my wife. So she was an unscheduled speaker, and she obviously disabused them of that notion. And they were extraordinarily happy, I must say, gave her a standing ovation, and I won that precinct. Who's to say what the outcome? I don't think we can say what the outcome is, but we can say whether or not we take something like this and just sweep it under the rug, and say, it's just the way it is? Or are there consequences?
Donald Trump, where they get into a fight, he's been defending you on Twitter most of the day.
Well, I have a tendency, as you've probably noticed over the last several months, not to talk about other people and what their intentions are and what they do. I will continue that now.
How do you evaluate the state of the campaign at this point? I mean, you said you're going on to New Hampshire and South Carolina. What sort of showing do you think?
Well, I want to continue to make progress. You know, I base what I do on the support that I see, the monetary support, you know, the tremendous support that I have on social media, and what I see in the crowds and in people that I encounter. Those are the things that will tell me, because again, you know, this was not something that was on my bucket list. This is something I'm doing for the people. And so many people everywhere I go say, please, 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 please don't drop out. Please don't stop. We need you. So I will continue to be a voice as long as I feel that that is the case. And the other thing that I really need to emphasize, you know, one of the things that they say represents America is baseball. Have you noticed that in a baseball game there are 9 innings and you don't call the game after the first inning or 2? There's a reason for that.
Just to be clear, we are here because of what happened with the Cruz campaign.
I suspect that that's the reason you're here.
Well, you're the one who the press.
That's why I'm here. I don't know why you're here.
You agree with
Okay.
Carson, using faith as a way of criticising what Ted Cruz's campaign has done, can you elaborate on that? Why do you use a Bible verse to talk about what Ted Cruz has done?
I'm talking about what everybody does.
No, but
When
you
I
said
say
then you were talking about Ted Cruz.
by their fruit you will know them.
Right,
Okay, that was the Sermon on the Mount.
right.
And it was in the context where Jesus was saying, you know, there's some people, you know, who aren't what they seem to be, who say one thing and do another, but you can always tell who they are by their fruit,
And it seems to
how
be
they
that's
act.
Ted Cruz.
So
Same here.
you're the one. I'm,
No, I'm
wait,
the one.
no,
You're saying.
listen to what I'm saying. Listen carefully. Don't argue, just listen. Okay. What I'm saying is that you, the press, and we, the American people, have a perfectly good way of evaluating people. We've always had a good way of evaluating people. Will we use it or will we ignore it? Go back to the previous president or the current president. When he was running, were there things there that could have been evaluated that would have told us a great deal if we had chosen to look at them? Probably there are.
Dr. Carson, you've mentioned that people in Ted Cruz's organization were doing this. Should he fire those people? Should he terminate all ties with those people?
Well, let me put it this way. When I discovered that there were things in my campaign that I couldn't agree with after really doing an investigation, I made changes. And I think that's what a good leader does. If there are things that are going on that you don't agree with, you have to make changes. Now, if he agrees with it, he doesn't need to make changes. That would be, you know, it would be hypocritical, wouldn't it, to go against your beliefs. So if he agrees with it, not a problem for him.
Carson, you're asking others to make a judgment on whether Ted Cruz is who he says he is. Do you think he is who he says he is?
Well, I guess you have to preface that by telling me, who does he say he is?
Well, he says his campaign is a revival, which will turn America back to God.
He says he's the choice for evangelical voters. Are you saying that they should reconsider their support for him, given what you're alleging?
I'm saying that evangelical voters, just like everybody else, should listen to what I just said and evaluate a person on what they do, how they treat other people, and that includes myself. I want people to evaluate me on that basis also.
Did Ted Cruz apologize to you?
Yes, he did.
What else did he say?
Well, he said obviously he didn't know that people were doing this kind of thing in his organization, and he didn't agree with it.
Do you regret announcing that you were going to be going back to Florida and spurring some of this confusion?
Well, I didn't make that announcement. I guess somebody talked to other people.
Well, your campaign
You know,
told the press.
I didn't say it, so don't blame me.
But you're here telling us that people should know what's going on in their campaign and hold people accountable. I mean,
Is
you've
it,
read that
well,
message.
well, let me ask you this question. Is it okay after being on the road for almost 3 weeks to go home and get a fresh change of clothes? Or is that a problem? Does that make somebody into an evil, horrible person?
Trump called this fraud. Do you agree with that term?
Again, I think I've said what I want to say on that. I know you guys like to create a mud fight because that's fun.
No, we're just wondering what
You know, this is a problem with America today. We've become like ancient Rome. Everybody wanted to go to the Colosseum and see the blood and the gore. Oh, this is exciting, while their society was crumbling around them. I think I've stated very clearly what people need to look at and how they need to make their evaluations.
Dr. Gupta, 2 more questions. Have you spoken to anyone else from the campaign, in particular Congressman Steve King, who tweeted out that you were dropping out on Monday night?
I haven't spoken to him. I did speak to Rob Taylor. He's a state representative in Iowa and was our campaign chairman there. And he has called upon Representative King on multiple occasions to clarify, to apologize, and he says he has not heard a word from Congressman King.
Dr. Carson, tomorrow you're...
I hear a voice way in the wilderness over here. Where is that? Okay.
Dr. Carson?
Paul, you mentioned, or you asked, are there consequences for this kind of behavior? I guess just to follow up on that, are you suggesting that there should be, and what should they be?
Well, I think I just said, when I did a deep dive in my organization and I found that there were problems, I made changes. That's what you have to do, unless you agree with it. Again, if he's in total agreement with it, then he doesn't need to make any changes.
Tomorrow you're going to be returning to a venue that perhaps helped launch this campaign. Can you talk about that?
Well, the National Prayer Breakfast, I assume you're talking about, because I'm going to a number of venues tomorrow. But, it was a very interesting thing that happened 3 years ago at the National Prayer Breakfast. But one of the things that I'm going to be doing tomorrow is meeting with a number of state leaders from other places and just, talking about America, the world, their countries, what things we have in common, and how do we make progress in the world. That's going to be one of the main focuses of my going there. All right, thank you all.
For your interest, Dr. Carson, your attendance today.
And we're back now live from Manchester, New Hampshire. I got the panel here, but before I get to the panel, joining me on the phone from Washington, D.C. is Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, I wanted to check in with you. I know you just had a press conference in Washington where you were criticizing the Cruz campaign about what happened in Iowa. Explain what you were asking for from the Cruz campaign.
Accountability. Senator Cruz has apologized, said that he didn't know what his campaign was doing, but that he certainly didn't condone such activities. But there needs to be action. When I found that things weren't going to my expectations in my campaign, I did a deep dive. I found out what was going on. We made the changes very appropriately. Things are incredibly better now. You have to do something because accountability is necessary if you're going to clean up corruption. And right now in Washington, D.C., it is a cesspool. And if you're just going to allow things to happen and just say, oh, sorry, that's not going to help.
Do you think Ted Cruz won the caucuses, honestly?
It's very, very difficult to say. I can tell you that, at one of the caucuses my wife went to, one of the Cruz people had spoken before she came in and told people that I was dropping out and that they should really seriously think about not wasting their vote. She had a chance to talk. She wasn't a scheduled speaker But the people were just so delighted, I got to tell you. She got a standing ovation, and I won that precinct. So, I mean, these things do make a difference. To try to brush them under the rug and say, oh, what difference does it make, I think is inappropriate.
When you say you want accountability, define that. You think he should fire staffers? You know, these could have been just rogue Iowans. What good does that do at this point?
Well, if
explain
there are
the level
people,
of accountability you want.
If there are people in his campaign doing things that are important, and they are making a decision to be deceitful and to try to manipulate people, are those the people you want around you if you are saying that you are different, that you are somebody who can be trusted to clean up some of the mess that's going on?
And let me ask you this final question just to clear it up. How committed are you to staying in this race?
Well, you know, it was never my intention to get in this race in the first place. You know, after hundreds of thousands of petitions, I could barely get in the House. I said maybe I should listen to the people. But now I'm fully committed. You know, baseball has 9 innings. You don't call the game after the first inning or two. So there are a lot of things that are going to continue to come out about all kinds of people. And the populace will have an opportunity to see how we react under pressure. And I think that's a good process.
Will we see you Saturday at the debate?
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Carson, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let me quickly bring in tonight's panel, MSNBC political correspondent and NBC News political correspondent Casey Hunt, Robert Costa from the Washington Post, also a contributor for us at MSNBC, and James Pendle, an old pal of mine, now a reporter for the Boston Globe, veteran of covering New Hampshire. Yes, you're young looking, but you are a veteran at this point.
14, I know.
I know, but this is like your third or fourth?
Fifth, yeah.
Fifth? Yeah. Fifth New Hampshire primary. Your eyebrows raised when you heard Dr. Carson's answer there about Cruz and accountability and a fraudulent caucus win, perhaps.
You know, look, I mean, here's the bottom line. When you this is a first-time candidate, okay? Yeah. And we're talking about issues that related to Iowa, and I'm not dismissing them. But he's not here in New Hampshire. He's still apparently folding his clothes in Florida right now, or doing press conferences in Washington. And this campaign is not about him, right? The campaign is supposed to be about the people. And he's not up here talking to the people about the issues that involve him. He's talking about issues that happened last week in Iowa. I do think it's going to have some impact, though. I mean, I think when we saw that the first news was that Cruz, right. That he was going to go to Florida, I thought you thought Cruz was going to take all of his voters. I don't know now. All
right, very fast from each of you, and I'll sneak in at a break. Bob, Trump's trying to make this an issue. Why now? Why not hit Cruz later on this? He's not really. Is he going to be a factor here in New Hampshire?
Carson's attack right now on Cruz doesn't really matter in New Hampshire. Carson isn't making a play here, but it does impact Cruz because it's an attack from the right, going to the South Carolina, going to the South. If Carson's still in this race, he's making the play to Cruz where you're not really one of us.
Boy, everybody hates Cruz. That's what you end up finding out. It's like they all look for a reason to pile on him. But by the way, it ends up benefiting him.
And you know who is watching this with some level of glee? Everyone who works for Marco Rubio, because they are happy to see Cruz and Carson go at each other and potentially split up some of that evangelical vote in South Carolina and pave the way for him.
They all are desperate for him to stay in this race through March 1st for so many reasons. Anyway, 3 of you are going to stick around. The lid is next.